good morning, or good afternoon, wherever you're watching us from. Welcome to the Taco Tuesday edition of The Rundown. I am your host, Craig DeLuz, and joining me is our co-host. Now, I will allow him to introduce himself.
Thank you, Craig. I'm the co-host for today's program. My name is Mike Poworski, and it's great to be with you here on The Rundown.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Now, folks, you may notice that we kind of switch back and forth, host and co-host. Just so you guys know, we do that so that, one, we can each take a turn in the driver's seat, as well as get a chance to kind of pick the stories that are of interest, in particular to us. Sometimes one of us will make sure that we are more familiarized with the stories than the other. So it's actually beneficial. So anyway, that just wanted to let you guys know why you notice we switch off.
You know, Craig, I actually got called out on this yesterday. It's kind of weird that you bring this up. I got some notes from some fans that said it appears as though you're talking with your eyes closed, and I couldn't figure out what they were talking about. And I went back and looked at it. My camera's here. Here's my camera, right? But my monitor is down here. So what would happen is I would keep my head level at the camera, but be looking at the monitor trying to read the stories.
And so you do look like your eyes are closed.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, I was just trying to be a good video guy. And okay, now I know I have to bring my monitor up. Right. So I apologize for looking like I was. In fact, the words were under the influence of a green leafy substance. Is what
a green leafy substance in the bourbon room.
In the bourbon room, yeah. So, apologies to all the viewers out there in viewerland.
Yeah, that's one of the downsides of doing stuff like this. When you're doing technology, you've got technology all around you. I was telling Mike earlier, I'm like, okay, so I got a monitor here, I got a monitor here, I got another computer over there. Yeah. I just trying to look at where you're, and then all the while I'm supposed to be actually looking at the camera.
Right, yeah.
While reading.
I came from Radioland. I focus around the microphone. That was about it. This whole video thing's all still kind of new to me. I know we're 2 months into it, but I'm doing my best, folks. Doing my best.
Yeah. Well, you're doing a phenomenal job, my friend.
Well, let's just say it's good there's no smell-o-vision,
It's good there's no smell-o-vision. Yes. Thank you, Jesus. There is no smell-o-vision. Well, starting to get into the stories, we live in a day and age where there are cameras everywhere, right? And one would think that an elected official, in particular one who decides that they are going to put mandates on people and require people to do certain things during COVID, one would think that they would be smart enough to realize that if you're going to put in place dictatorial rules, right? Tell people what they can and cannot do, how they can and cannot live their lives, right? One would think that you wouldn't go out in public and break the very rules that you put in line for other people. Well, Governor Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan decided that she, not once, but twice now, has been caught violating her own COVID rules, right? First, she decided to take a trip to Florida when she banned all travel to or from the state because of COVID-19. And then, most recently, there was a rule in place regarding gathering in restaurants, right? Things you're supposed to do and not supposed to do. And as I tell you what you're not supposed to do, let me share this photo with you. Okay, so as you can see, there is Mayor Gretchen right there, sitting right there. Now, in her rules, it says specifically, gatherings are prohibited at food service establishments, whether indoor or outdoor, unless consumption of food or beverages is permitted only in a designated dining area where patrons are seated in groups of patrons that are separated by at least 6 feet. No more than 6 patrons are seated together at a table, booth, or group of fixed seats. And groups of patrons are not intermingling. Now, I want you to take a look at this photo, Mike, and I want you to tell me about how many of those rules do you see being broken in that particular rule right there?
All of them, Craig. All of the rules are being broken. All of them. We've learned from precedent that it's okay for governors to break COVID rules. We have that thanks to Governor Newsom out there in California. This is just another example of her elitism. That you are just the peasants. You are just the servants of the state of Michigan, and it does not require her to pay attention to the same rules that you pay attention to. This is, this is what you get with elite Democrat leadership, folks. That they get to do what they want, and you have to do what they tell you to do.
Well, and here's the thing: is that if they honestly and truly believe that these rules keep you safe, and I'm not saying they do, but if you honestly and truly believe that, don't you believe that, violating and breaking those very rules, undermining them, is going to cause people to say, well, why should I listen to you? And the worst part is, even if you don't believe it, right? Let's say you don't believe it, which I don't believe that they do. Then what happens when you try to put something down or put something forward that you really do need the people to follow in order to protect themselves and protect others? Well, guess what? Why are they going to listen to you when you demonstrate you are a hypocrite?
None of that matters to her, Craig. None of it matters to her, because you shouldn't be trying to catch her, because she is the governor, and she's the end all be all. In fact, the reporter in this case gave her a pass. Okay, gave her a pass. They called her out on it, and this you could tell this was a planned release. Somebody was going to release something, so they went to this reporter. And Craig, if you have it there, I'd like for you to read or the apology there, and then I'm going to point out how that was just full of lies as well. But this reporter gave her a pass for her apology.
Hold on, I'm looking it up right now.
Yep. From what I recall, folks, it said something along the lines of, Craig, you confirm this or not. It said, listen, we went there and we paid attention to the guidelines, okay? But then more and more people showed up. And as more and more people showed up, we just added more tables to it. And we knew that we were all vaccinated, so it wasn't a concern for us, all right? So that's and the reporter said, well, now knowing that, it's okay.
Well, right. No, but here's the thing that's crazy about it. So why not lift your order? Why not let everyone else do what you knew was okay?
What this was lies, Craig. Craig, can you bring the photo back up? I want to point something out based on that apology. Okay. Craig, walk through this with me. She said in the apology that as we're there, more and more people continued to show up. And when that happened, we would just add more tables. Okay. That clearly tells me that she was there for some length of time. And more people showed up. We've all had this happen. Other friends show up. You bring their tables over and you let them sit down with you. Craig, you look at the table there. Do you see any food or drinks on the table?
None.
So
they hadn't been there a long time.
Really? But Craig, she says more and more people showed up. This is a group of people, Craig, sitting there that all sat down together, all got their menus, and they all ordered together. Yes. She just lied to you.
She just flat out lied. But like I said, the dumb thing is, why are you then allow yourself to get caught on camera?
Yeah.
Anyway. The point is this do as I say, not as I do. And the thing that frustrates me is I'm like, this person should not still be governor. Cuomo in New York, who basically sent people with COVID into nursing homes to kill tens of thousands of senior citizens, should not still be governor. Gavin Newsom, who has wrecked California's economy, should not still be governor. And they will continue to be governor because the voters are just for some reason, they just don't catch that the things that are frustrating them, the things that don't allow them to live the American dream, are because of policies that are passed by these idiots, by these Democrats. And they'll continue to elect them and blame Republicans somehow. And that's just kind of the lot that we have in life, unfortunately.
Democrats will allow Democrats to lie and get away with it every time.
Yeah. Well, now I have to admit, Democrats are not the only ones that lie, because we do have our at least a handful of some Republicans, in particular when it comes to guns, who decide that they don't necessarily need to tell the truth. And one of those is Mr. John Cornyn. Senator John Cornyn from Texas. We've talked about this previously on the show. He's actually introduced a bill for national concealed carry reciprocity, and he waited until the makeup of both Congress of both houses of Congress were such that he knew it would never pass. And he introduced it in order to try and get over it, in order to try and say, look, I'm not anti-gun. But once again, this is the same guy who's working to end private party firearm sales throughout the nation by requiring universal background checks. How do we know this? We know this because as is reported in Truth About Guns, he's been meeting with none other than Senator Murphy from, I believe, New Jersey, who we
Connecticut.
both know is
Yeah.
anti-gun, beyond anti-gun, but trying to meet with him to try and find a compromise on universal background checks.
Yeah, Murphy's Connecticut. Murphy and Blumenthal
Connecticut,
are
okay. Yeah,
Connecticut.
I didn't have it quite off the top of my head. Thank you.
No worries, no worries, because you got Murphy, the governor there in New Jersey, so
Oh,
he's
ugh.
easily confused.
Yeah.
The Listen, this guy's and I know you said some Republicans lie. Well, this is one of those rhinos. This is one of the guy who's not really a Republican. He's trying to pretend to be a Republican because he believes if he stays as a Republican, he can continue to be the senator from Texas. He can't be the Democrat from he can't be the Democrat senator from Texas because they just don't exist. So that's what he's trying to do here. You know, he doesn't even know what he's talking about. You go through here and they're talking about unlicensed firearm dealers. Craig, you know what you have licensed firearm dealers, and then you have not anything else. You're either a licensed firearm dealer or you're not. There is no such thing as an unlicensed firearm dealer. So you go through his whole article and his whole story and his whole proposal here, and it's just how do I please the Democrat people and try and remain quiet as a Republican? Well, this is one of those things where it's clearly crossing over, and now that it's going to garner attention, you're going to see him back away from this. I guarantee it.
Oh no, he's most definitely going to have to, because this is something that is just not going to stand. And here's the thing, folks. What he really wants to do is he wants to require background checks for private party transfers, right?
Yeah.
Now you have places like it says like in California, I can't even loan a gun to someone who's outside of my immediate family without them having to go through a background check, an actual firearm transfer. Unless it's immediate family, I cannot loan them. I cannot loan someone a firearm. Now, so think about this. Imagine that, you have a good friend who's maybe they have a stalker. Someone's been stalking them, and they want to go get a firearm, but in California, you got to wait 11 days after you purchase the firearm. You have the 10-day waiting period. You get it on the 11th day. So what do you do in the meantime? Because this is an immediate threat, mind you.
Yeah.
What do you do? Well, I can't even loan him a firearm without being able to do that transfer. This is the sort of madness that he wants to put in place.
Yeah, and it's and you're talking about Texas, right?
Right.
Yeah. Guess how acceptable people of Texas are going to be to this, where they just approved. Well, I guess we're finally waiting. We're just waiting for Governor Abbott's signature, but both houses there have approved, constitutional carry, open carry.
As Texas continues to be Californicated,
right.
You never know how things may change in Texas.
Yeah.
Sadly, unfortunately. But now he's not the only one. Now, let me go over here. There's another one now in the state of Washington, and you guys will be interested to hear about this. So they've now made it. Governor Inslee has now signed a bill in place that will ban the possession of a firearm within 250 feet of a permitted rally or protest. So if it's been permitted, so if someone's gone and gotten a permit, because if someone's gone and gotten a permit for a rally or a protest, and you possess a firearm within 250 feet of it, you will be subject to a criminal penalty, felony. Now, what's crazy about this is that even if you're carrying it or openly carry it, even if it's in a car. So let's say you have concealed carry, right? You say, I'm not going to take it to the protest. If you park within 250 feet of the event and you leave it in your car, that will be considered, in the case of this bill, open carry. And you will be subject to a crime, even if you followed the law and actually disarmed yourself.
Yeah, Governor Jay Inslee up there in Washington State once again trying to find every way possible to violate your Second Amendment rights. Now he's telling you can't combine your Second Amendment and your First Amendment right. I wonder if we can allow the Fourth Amendment to be there as well. I mean, or the Fifth Amendment. Can we not have either of those amendments there in these First Amendment safe zones?
You know what? What's funny? Yeah. We had a guy in California, a Republican, who introduced a bill worse than this.
Right.
That was like, that didn't understand why the bill was anti-gun. And
Yeah.
that's the reason why I put these two stories right
Yeah.
next to each other,
Right.
because that was the case of a Republican here in California, a very conservative Republican who did the exact same thing.
Yeah, it's pitiful. They don't understand that this First Amendment protected area is now a Second Amendment exclusion zone. You can't combine your amendments. Craig, like you said, if you had your firearm in this 250-foot area secured in the trunk of your car, they're still going to charge you with open carry because of the way this law is worded. Listen, let me tell you what that does, folks. That says, listen, if I'm going to a First Amendment rally and I can't have my firearm, well, I guess I'm going to have to leave it home, because if I have it in my vehicle, it's going to be a crime. So guess what a law-abiding citizen is going to do? They're going to take that firearm, leave it in their home, and leave themselves without the protection guaranteed under the Second Amendment for their entirety of that trip, rather than just in that last 250 feet. Because if there's no place to secure it, I must have to leave it home in my safe. So this is just taking away more self-protections guaranteed by the Constitution by this crappy governor. And the only good thing about this stuff that goes on in Washington is that, listen, our good friends in the Second Amendment Foundation are in Washington State, and they take personal offense and give this stuff priority.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. We really appreciate the work that the folks over at the Second Amendment Foundation do. They do phenomenal work, and what I really like about them in particular is they're not afraid to partner with other groups to do stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
No pride of ownership in terms of, in the negative sense. They very much are like, look, we're going to work with whoever's willing to be involved, whether it's, local groups on the ground or other national groups.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so we know that they will be fighting that one. All right. Here's another piece of legislation. This was in California, and this is a good and a bad story. It's good in that this bill died, but it's bad in that we know that it will be reintroduced, and that is a measure that would actually remove enhancements for the use or possession of a firearm while in the commission of a crime. And this is this is a bill that was introduced here in the state of California. It did not make it out of the Appropriations Committee. Thank you, Jesus. But here's the thing. The thing that's really crazy about this, once again, is at the same time in California, they are trying to criminalize the legal possession of a firearm. They are trying to decriminalize the illegal possession of, or the use of possession in the use of or the possession of a firearm during the use of a crime. In other words, they're trying to make it easier for bad guys to have guns, but they're trying to take good guys who have guns and they're trying to make it a crime.
Folks, let's make this perfectly clear for you what they're trying to do in California. To legally possess a firearm, they're trying to make it a crime. To legally possess a firearm, they're trying to make it a crime. To illegally possess a firearm, they're taking away the crime. To illegally possess, they want it to no longer be a crime. Are you catching that? Do you see the conflict we have going on here? That's absolutely amazing when you think about it that way, Craig.
Well, it is, and the crazy thing is, and here's the thing: there are some very reasonable people that I talk to on the regular who just can't see it. And I just want to tell them, what? Look, I know weed is legal now in California, but you need to stop smoking it just for about 10 minutes, just so that you can clear your mind and see the logic and the reason, see just how logical or illogical ideas like this are.
Yeah, it's a minimum of weed, maybe even more, Craig. You might have to do a little more than that. This is like they had a brainectomy at some point and just had it removed, because this is some of the stupidest stuff I've ever seen in my life. Exactly.
Well, okay, now if we're going to talk about stupid, let's talk about stupid. So, in the state of California, probably the biggest, most well-known gaffe when it comes to guns has to do with 30-round or 50-round or 30-round mag clip with that fires 5,000 rounds a second or whatever. Kevin De Leon. We all know that was funny. Well, here's another funny one that actually came out, Mike. So there's a state legislator in the state of California. He's from San Francisco, so it. It was destined to happen sooner or later. Decided to tweet this. What he did was he basically is claiming that he found discarded packaging from a Glock 19 on the streets near where kids may play, Someone had purchased a gun and just discarded the packaging. Well, first of all, as if the packaging from a firearm is deadly and should not be just discarded there somewhere on the streets, right? So that was issue number one. Well, then it was pointed out to him via Twitter, very hysterically, that, well, it actually wasn't a Glock 19 firearm, semi-automatic firearm. It was actually a BB gun, an air gun, airsoft gun, right? Trying to show him that, yeah, no, dude, really, first of all, they don't come in that kind of packaging. I don't know about you. I have several Glocks. They come in a nice, very, very nice lockable case. So no one's discarding the packaging that a real Glock comes in. Now, you and I, Mike, we have both, I'm sure we both tweeted or sent out stuff and we're like, oh, oops, my bad, right? And you usually own your mistake. Well, that's not what he did in this case. In this case, he decided to double down. Now, he did admit that he deleted it and that he misidentified the Glock as an air pistol. The Glock that was actually an air pistol. But then he goes on to continue the narrative once again. Basically saying, well, this is still a weapon that can be used to harm people, and I'm just still disturbed to find it on the streets of San Francisco while we're in the midst of a bunch of gang violence. Now, Mike, here's the thing that gets me. Now, look back at the last story. This is the same guy who wants to actually decriminalize, or he's part of the same group of people that want to decriminalize the possession of a firearm in the use of a crime.
Greg, like you said, I think it has to be the weed. It must be the weed. This guy wants to, decriminalize firearms, but criminalize the packaging of a BB gun. That's what this is, packaging BB gun. And folks, if you've ever seen those hard plastic wraps, those compressed packages, and you try and pull them apart, you can really hurt yourself with one of those. You can cut yourself. You could probably cut yourself more with the packaging than you can with the BB gun itself. All right. The other thing that's ironic about this, Greg, is he wants to evidently outlaw the littering in San Francisco, but the pooping on the street, that's okay. You could still have that there.
You know what? I hadn't even thought of that aspect of it, but you're 100% right. Look, no BB gun packaging, but poop is fine. So what if you poop in the BB gun packaging?
Oh boy. Maybe the BB gun is to protect yourself.
Isn't that like recycling?
Yeah. Oh, it's true. That's true. Well, listen, pooping on the street really is recycling if you think about it. It really is.
All right. Moving right along. This one I wanted to share, and this is interesting. So you had a scholar who was part of the American Psychological Association, who in a group discussion or email decided to raise the question about, how many genders are there really? And he raised the question, is there a Z chromosome? And because of that, he was shunned and he was kicked out of the group.
Yeah, this is incredible. This is not some internet junkie who just tweeted and got thrown off, or somebody that got pulled off of Twitter because they said an obvious comment. This was the American Psychiatric Association. This was
Psychological
Association. Mm-hmm. This is a board of certified physicians, or at least people that have been licensed to practice psychology. That they're not physicians. Psychologists are not physicians. And they've gone to great lengths to get peer review, to get accepted, and all of a sudden one who says there's two sexes gets banned. I mean, this is easy, Craig. How many sexes are there?
Well, there's only two. And what's funny is that once again, he's talking biology. He's not even talking gender. Now, yes, we can argue gender and gender identity and all that. I don't want to get into that argument, but he's specifically talking about sex.
Yes.
Which is biological.
Yes. That's what I said. How many sexes are there, Craig?
Right. There are two.
There are two. This is almost as easy as the question, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop?
Two.
Three. All right.
Three. Oh, you're right. Oh, my God.
One, two, three.
2, 3. Crunch. Yes. 3. You're right.
3. So
yes, we're dating ourselves. For those of you who are under the age of 40, we're dating ourselves.
Yeah, there we are. So two sexes. This guy gets thrown off for saying there's two sexes, and again he pulls out the XY chromosome issue, and It's that simple. It really is. Like you just said, Craig, not talking about gender here, not looking to offend somebody that identifies as a sheep or whatever the hell you're doing.
But here was the thing, and this is what got me, and this is where I have to correct myself in the headline that I put, because he didn't say there were only two sexes. He asked if there were more than two sexes, and then brought up, well, so does that mean that a Z chromosome exists?
Yeah.
And once again, he's asking based on the science.
Yes.
Where's the science?
Trust the science, Craig. Unless the science doesn't agree with our policy, then don't trust the science.
Well, and that's where we are right now. Where we are right now is people say trust the science, but it's not. Most of the things a lot of the stuff we're dealing with, whether it's global, whether it's climate change, whether it's firearms and the Second Amendment, whether it's Black Lives Matter and police reform, none of this is based on science. It's based on feelings, right? And they're calling it science, but it's not. It's all based on feelings.
It's all based on political science. They want you to trust the science, Craig. They want you to trust the political science. I think we need to turn back around on them. We're not going to trust their science. We're going to trust the science, but we're not going to trust their political science. We should start trusting science fiction.
Okay,
that's what we do. We'll just bring it back on them and trust the science.
All right, so here I want to share something with you. Now, you guys are all gonna love this. So, talk about the science. Evidently, in the Middle East, in the Gaza Strip in Palestine, they have discovered the ability of how to raise people from the dead, right? And I can prove it because we actually have video evidence of this actually taking place. It's going to be part of our parting shot. So here you have they're trying to. People are taking a video. They're actually having a funeral procession for an individual who was clearly killed as a result of the Israeli attacks on the Gaza Strip. But then there's an air raid that happens, and you'll be kind of surprised as to how everyone, and I want to emphasize everyone, respond. So check it out. I'll let you chime in first, Mike.
First off, the guy only had enough friends to carry him, I guess, when he was dead. There was no real funeral procession that I saw. It was just carrying the fake body. And, after having spent, just over a year over there in that garden spot of the world, I could smell that video, Craig. I could smell that video.
Really?
This is ridiculous. I mean, you talk about getting caught in a lie. I mean, look, we got our people. This is how we're affected because you're killing our people, and except not really. We just, we too wanted to get our 15 minutes of fame. Those are the Palestinian Kardashians, right there, is what they are, Craig. They just want to get on the camera.
Well, they've learned from the rest of the fake news media. They just learned that imagery is everything, and they probably already got what it was that they wanted from that little snippet, which was basically. They probably got a little snippet, and people, that'll wind up on CNN or MSNBC somewhere. They'll talk about, look at what the Israelis are doing to these poor Palestinians. And don't get me wrong, you know what? There's always two sides to every conflict. But in this particular case, when you fire over 4,300 rockets into Jerusalem at schools, at churches, at people's homes, it's a little hard for me to declare you to be the victim. Or at least the innocent victim. And then you go and you see propaganda like this, and you're like, yeah.
Don't throw rocks at tanks, okay?
Don't throw rocks at tanks. That is a bad idea no matter which way you look at it.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, folks, hey, that's going to be it for today's rundown. We very much appreciate you tuning in. Want to remind you, Friday is Freedback Friday. We're going to be giving away some stuff from Gorilla Machining. That's going to be our upper, and we're going to be giving away a lower piece of aluminum. You guys know what that is. We don't want to say what it is because we don't want to get banned. But that's coming from Grid Defense, our sponsors. Both of their links are in the description of this video. Please visit them and tell them that Craig and Mike sent you. All right? Go there. Tell them that we sent you. All right. And please remember, like, share,
Share,
subscribe.
subscribe.
All right. We'll holler at you guys later.